Hello everybody. There's not going to be any talk from Professor French at the beginning of this video because unfortunately Professor French is out of commission again. Today my camera person is Professor Lamb, who has been grading all of your stuff this semester, so I hope you all love and appreciate her.
Thank you.
So the last two videos we were doing, our known solutions has had a little bit of everything in it. So you should know what everything looks like at this point. And now we're up to the point where we have only some of everything. And here are some of the unknowns that they are using in class, and as you can see, they're all pretty colors. We have the purple one, and we have the green one, we have the yellow one, and we have the blue one. And I'm showing you that because I think it's cool and pretty. However, because you guys are virtual, and I like to play around with stuff, we're not going to do any of those. We're going to do a different unknown. The unknown I've chosen is the other green one, because I like the color green, but it doesn't have the same stuff as that green one. So don't go texting your friends in class, hey, I got the green unknown in the video, what did you get? Because your stuff is going to be different. So, since you saw in the previous two videos me doing pretty much every single step, I'm not going to record myself doing every single step. I might jump here and there and be like, we've done the past couple of things, but you will see every test for every single cation, so your guys' job is to say, hey, that turned the same color it did in the previous video, it must be in there, or alternatively, that didn't turn the color it turned in the other video, so it must not be there. So, and that's what we're grading you on. So, to start with, I'll do the first step because there's no waiting, and we can have some fun with that. So I've already got our smaller version of it. This is a little more than 15 drops because I like to do things in larger volume because they're fun. So I'm going to put some of our ammonia solution in there. Just made it. There it is. Put a few drops in there. And it definitely is a bit cloudy. So we'll call that good. And now I'll add some HCl. And hopefully it will become uncloudy. Yeah, it's not, this one doesn't look perfect on the video, I apologize, but take my word for it, we're pretty much where we want to be. So I'll do the next steps, and I'll separate the stuff, and I'll come back to you in a little bit. So hold on tight, and I'll see you momentarily. Alright, so I've gone through the first few steps, and I've separated the group 2s, which are in our precipitate over here, and we kind of got that shiny, glassy look on the outside of it, but if you look really closely, you can see that our precipitate is mainly down there. I'll hold it up to my shirt, white shirt, if that helps. Sorry for the dirty lab coat this time. This is my personal lab coat. I wasn't able to borrow Professor French's because she's not here. And on the other end, we have our supernatant, which has our group 3s and our group 4s. As we go through this, I'm going to try and be as unemotional as possible. I don't want to give you hints that will imply that something's there or not, but the one hint I will give you is that we do have at least one cation from each of the groups. So we have at least one group 2, at least one group 3, and at least one group 4. So we do need to test both the precipitate, our group 2s, and the supernatant, our group 3s and 4s. So to start with, I'm going to do the group 2s, and then we'll cycle back around and do the group 3s and 4s later. So first things first, we wash our precipitate with some ammonia chloride. It says 20 drops, so let's see if I can count to 20 correctly. It's very challenging. 2, 3.
Suspense.
Alright, I think that was 20. If I miscounted, don't come at me in the comments.
Jeez.
So this is to wash it. So put it in there, give it a good mix, and then we centrifuge it. So I'll do the next few steps, and I'll come back to you when it's important for you guys to see what's happening. So we'll be back in a minute. Alright, so here is our yellow supernatant from step 7 or 8, whatever it is. So this is what we're going to use to test for tin right now. And we got that yellow color going for us. And then here, I just mixed it back in the solution, so it looks cloudy, but this is the precipitate that theoretically has our other group 2. So let's see what we do and don't have. We're getting to that point. So starting with this, just going by the order that's on the paper, we're testing for tin in our supernatant. So we're going to add some 6 molar HCl to adjust the pH. But you guys should know by now that if we're adjusting the pH, I like to know where we're starting at. So give it a little drop. And because we did make this supernatant by putting a whole bunch of KOH in there, we should not be surprised at all to see that that is a deep dark blue color. So we are basic. Just like my sister. So
I was waiting for a joke like that.
So we're going to add some 6 molar HCl until it becomes acidic. So let's see if anything interesting happens. And if you look, got a little bit of smoke coming out, and there seems to be some sort of precipitate forming. I'll give it a good mix. And that did all dissolve away. So let's put some more HCl in there. Ooh.
What a lovely color.
What a lovely color. So it's not all dissolving away, so we're probably good. Going to add another drop just to be safe. Yeah, I added 2 drops, so be it. Got a nice white smoke coming out. Let's see, what does the paper say? The paper says acidic. And my nose says that somebody needs to throw away the rotten eggs and buy a fresh dozen. So now I'm going to add 5 drops of our thiocitamide, our favorite reagent that just keeps popping up in this lab. And I'll heat it for 2 minutes. I'm not going to actually mix it. I'm going to heat this, do the rest of step 11, and I'll show it to you when it's done so you guys can decide for yourselves whether or not we have tin. Alright, so I've heated it, and if you look at the solution, we do have, it's kind of a cloudy, tannish solution, but at the bottom we do have a thick clump of our precipitate down there, so there is a precipitate from this. You guys get to tell me if that means we have tin or not. So I'm going to put that over here, my samples, and at the end, like we do with the other videos, we'll go through all of them. So what we have left here is we have a precipitate, and I didn't mix in the water this time so you could actually see it. So we have some precipitate, and that is what we're using to test for our cadmium, copper, and bismuth. So I'm going to add a few drops of 6 molar HCl to this. I think it's only 2. Yep. I'm going to mix thoroughly, and I'm going to heat it, and I'll come back to you when we're ready to do our test for cadmium. Alright, so I've done step 11, and I've separated some stuff out, and now we got our pretty much colorless solution there, and this is what we're going to use to test for cadmium. We have a black precipitate, so that's what we're going to use to test for copper and bismuth. So we'll do the cadmium test first. And it says to add NH3 until it becomes basic. So we gotta test the starting pH first. I'm gonna clean off my thing. So we are in fact starting off acidic. So I'm going to add some 6 molar NH3, which is one of these bottles up here.
I think it's right in front of you. 6 more.
Aha, there it is. I am blind. So we're going to add it until it's basic. Not seeing all that much happen. Maybe the solution's becoming slightly more yellowish in color, but it also could have been dirty test tube, who knows. So we are blue now. So, yeah, I'll say we're not perfectly colorless anymore. There's a tint of tan, yellow, whatever color you want to call that. So, we're going to then now add 2 drops of our thiacinamide. We're going to heat it for 2 minutes. Add the thiacinamide, not much change. We'll see if anything happens after I heat it. Alright, so I've taken the cadmium out of the hot bath, and we seem to have formed some sort of black precipitate in there. So, you guys get to tell me, is cadmium present or not? So, now that we've finished our test for cadmium, I have our precipitate from before, which I have suspended in a bit of water. And we are now going to test this for copper and bismuth. So to start, we're going to add 10 drops of our 6 molar nitric acid, which I found right away this time. Go me. So I'm going to add this. Give it a good mix. And I will heat for 5 minutes. And when we come back, we'll see if we have some copper. Alright, so I heated it for a few minutes and I centrifuged it. And we did have some fused sulfur, so I took that out. And we currently have a blue solution. And now we're going to add some 6 molar NH3 until it becomes basic again. So let's test it, because there's a possibility we might already be basic. That's the wrong thing. And nope, we are in fact acidic. So let's add some NH3. It's one of these, that one. So let's add that. And there is a even darker blue solution that's forming when I add that. And I'll mix it all together. And that smells like pure sulfur.
Oof.
Can't pick it up. And now we're basic, and we're going to add 10 more drops of this just to be extra certain. So there you have it. We have a nice blue solution there. It is now up to you to tell me if we have any copper or not. Now I'm going to centrifuge it and see if we can pull a precipitate out to see if we can test for bismuth or not. So I'll be back with you shortly. Alright, so I went through the next steps, and at the end of all that, we have ended up with a light blue solution with a bit of a precipitate at the bottom. It looks blue because of the blue solution, but that is a white precipitate. So once again, you guys tell me, do we have bismuth or not? And with that, that is the end of our group 2s. We're going to take a short break so I can use the restroom, and then we will do group 3 and 4. Alright, so we just finished the group 2s, and now we have our group 3 and 4s in the super data. So we're now going to go through these, and we're going to test them to see what we got over here. So to start with, we're going to add 2 drops of HCl. That should properly acidify our solution. Give it a good mix. And there we go. It's acidic. So now we're going to add the NH3 dropwise until it's basic. So, see if anything funky happens. Alright, there's a bit of blackness showing up on top. Get a good mix. And I'll be honest, I'm not even sure if that holds over or not, so let's... Nope, that is in fact still acidic. So, add some more. Still acidic. How are we doing? Still acidic. Yeah, this thing's taking its sweet time. Let's add a bit more. Let's use this one. Hey, there we go.
Ding, ding, ding.
Get off. Alright, so now we're basic. We got a nice black solution going for us. Now we'll add 5 more drops of that just to make sure we are super basic. Then we're going to add 10 drops of our favorite thioacetamide. I'll give it a good mix and I'll heat it, and when I come back, we'll separate these into our group 3s and group 4s. Alright, so I've gone ahead and I've separated those. We have a lot of liquid there. That's partially on my fault because I was messing around with stuff off screen. So this is our supernatant that has our group 4s, and this is our precipitate that has our group 3s. So my hat's messed up. So now we're going to add some NH3 to that. It says 15 drops. I'll give it a good mix. Try to get as much of that in there as possible. I want it to wash off the sides as well, so I'm going to add a little more. And then we're going to centrifuge that. So we'll be back in a few minutes. Alright, so I've gone, and I've separated them out. I've suspended it in water to stop it from drying out, but this is our precipitate that we're going to test for cobalt and nickel in a little bit. And here is our supernatant that we're going to use to test for chromium, manganese, and iron. So, start with, I'm going to add some 6 molar until it is basic, and because we're changing pH, I'm going to test where we're starting. And yep, definitely acidic to start with. So 6 molar NaOH. A few drops of that, see if anything interesting happens. There's some funky stuff happening over there. Give it a good mix. Test it. Oh, and we're still acidic too. Well, let's keep going. How about now? There we go. Now it's basic. So now that it's basic, add 4 more drops. I'm going to add some hydrogen peroxide, some H2O2. Didn't make this up fresh, so hopefully it'll still work properly. A couple extra due to the fact that it's not fresh, because this stuff decomposes quickly, so you got to be careful if you don't make it up right away. Mix thoroughly. And yeah, we're smoking and doing a little fizzing, so it's doing its job. And then we're going to heat it, and I'll do some science behind the scenes, and we'll come back for the chromium test. Alright, so I've done step 5 on this part of our procedure, and here is our precipitate, which we're going to put away for the moment, which we'll use to test for manganese and iron later. And here is our supernatant. Now, it never turned yellow, but like the instructions say, it is basic, and as the instructor here, I am saying we can just move forward. So, we're going to move forward. It says to ask your instructor. I'm the instructor. So, we're going to acidify it, which means to start with, we need to test where we're starting from. And all of the pH paper I had out a minute ago, that's destroyed because I put it in something acidic, so it's now all bright pink and unusable.
Oh.
So I'm getting a fresh one. are in fact basic. So now I'm going to add some acetic acid until we're not basic anymore. As you can see, a little bit of smoke coming off of that, but not much of a change otherwise. Let's see, have we done anything? Yeah, so since acetic acid is pretty weak, we're not really going to get it to be a bright red, but we have pretty much neutralized it, which is what we want. Just to be on the safe side, though, I will add a few more drops of that. Give it a good mix. And yeah, like I said, it's not going to get any more than that. So we're good. So now we add some barium chloride. This is going to be up here somewhere.
Boop.
There it is. And no major change, no precipitate. I'm still going to centrifuge it because it says so, but not much in there. So you guys can tell me, do we have chromium? I don't know. It's up to you to figure out. Alright, so just to go through the process showing you, I've centrifuged it. Not much change. So you guys can figure out if we have chromium or not.
Sorry.
Gesundheit. Gesundheit. Oh, Professor Lamb is having a fit.
Oh my goodness. Allergies.
Alright, so now we have our precipitate here, which we're going to use to test for manganese and iron. So to that we're going to add 10 drops of our sulfuric acid. Alright, it also says to add 10 drops of our H2O2. I'll probably add a little bit more just because, like I said, it's old. It's like 4 days old. That's, you know, if you're converting human years to the lifespan of H2O2, that's pretty much your great-grandparents. The stuff doesn't like to last too long. So, give it a good mix. And I'll heat it. And I'll come back to you in a few minutes when we test for the manganese. Alright, so I did a couple of steps off camera. We did have a bit of a precipitate, not a whole lot, but a bit of a precipitate. So I used the precipitate for the manganese, suspended in water, added the acid and the H2O2 and did all that. And now we're up to the NaBiO3, which I don't actually know what the proper name for that is. So I'm just going to call it NaBiO3. So, if you remember how we do this, I'm going to try and do it stupidly so you can see it on the camera. I get a thing of this, I put it in there. It goes ahead and reacts. Ooh. And almost goes over the top and is actually quite hot.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Ooh. I'm dropping that stuff though. I'm going to have to clean that up later. Dies down. Add a bit more. Stuff smells great, by the way. It's still going. I wonder if you guys can hear that. And it looks like it's nearly done. I might put one or two more things in there, pipettefuls, but that's pretty much it. So we're going to centrifuge it, and we will see what happens for our manganese test. So see you in a minute. Alright, so I've just finished centrifuging it, and we are left with a tan precipitate on the bottom and a colorless solution. So I think you figured out my catchphrase at this point. You guys tell me, do we have manganese in our solution? So without even cutting this time, we're going to go straight to the iron. I did dilute it off camera, so this is our dilute stuff. So now we're just going to add some KSCN to it, some potassium thiocyanate. I do know the name of that one. And we're going to see what happens. So with that, give it a good mix. Got a nice red wine there. I'm gonna go drink some red wine after this now. Got that on my mind. So there's our solution. Nice deep red color. So you guys tell me if we have iron or not. So from there, we're going to take our precipitate with nickel and cobalt, and I'm going to give it another centrifuge just to be safe, even though it has all the same precipitate at the bottom, and we'll come back and do those tests in a minute. Alright, so I've gone ahead and I've done a couple of things off camera because you don't need to see them. I centrifuged the precipitate from before with the nickel and cobalt, and I added the HCl and the HNO3 to make the aqua regia we talked about last time, and I separated them, and now we have our two test tubes that we're going to do to test for nickel and cobalt. And this one is one that we're going to use to test for nickel, and when I did it a second ago, there wasn't that brown precipitate there, but now there's a little bit of it forming. That is the iron hydroxide they talk about in the thing, but it's not all that much.
Ooh,
so
aggressive.
it's not all that much, so I'm good to just ignore it. So we're going to add some of our DMG reagent, which I should have found before I turned the camera on.
DMG.
This one. And we're going to see if anything funky happens. Oh, hello. It's stuck. Hopefully it didn't just destroy that. Oh, I did. Alright, so adding some of our DMG reagent, and got a nice pink color going there. Give it a good mix. And we have a nice bright pink color change, and it smells like nail polish remover. Oh my god. So I'll give it a good centrifuge, and we'll look at it in a second. Alright, so I've gone and centrifuged it, and we've got this hot pink precipitate in a colorless solution. So, you guys tell me, did we find nickel in our solution? I don't know. It's up to you to figure out. Last of our group 3s, we have our cobalt test. So, we're going to add some NaF to that, some sodium fluoride. I know the name of that one. Going to add a tipful. Not all that much going on there. We'll add another tipful for the fun of it. And that is all stained pink.
Oh gosh.
And some of the nail polish remover now.
Pepto-Bismol.
We'll give it a good mix. Alright, so whatever is going to happen happened, and there's clearly some extra on the bottom. So now we add some ammonium thiocyanate, which is this one. We're going to add 20 drops, and we're going to see if something happens. Or not. Alright, I'll call that 20 drops, I guess. I don't know if you saw that, but that just all kind of poured out, so. Give it a good mix. Kind of left with, I don't know what you want to call that, tan brown solution. So, you guys tell me if we found some cobalt or not. And with that, we have finished our group 3s, and in a moment we will do the group 4s. Alright, so here's our colorless supernatant from way back when. This has our group 4s, and to this we are going to add 15 drops of ammonium carbonate. So there's clearly something going on there. We've made a nice white cloudy solution. And we're going to mix thoroughly. We're going to centrifuge it. And then I might do a next step or two off camera, and I'll come back when I'm ready to do some barium stuff. Alright, so I did the washing and the centrifuging, and here we have a precipitate going into step 14, which is kind of a gray color. And I'm going to add 5 drops of our 6 molar acetic acid to it. There's a little bit of smoke coming up, but not a lot going on there. And I'm going to heat the test tube for 30 seconds. And while I'm heating that, since it's only 30 seconds, we're not going to cut, but I will mention, to pass the 30 seconds, to pass the time, that during our break, I did make a little bit of an error, and I accidentally threw out a whole bunch of the precipitate that we're supposed to use. So if we get to the barium and the calcium and something kind of looks like it's there, but maybe the color's a bit faint, go with your gut. I did accidentally throw out a bunch of the precipitate, so a bunch of our product that we should have had is no longer there. That's on me. I'm sorry, guys. We won't take it out on you when we're grading this, though. So now that I've said that, it's probably been about 30 seconds. So we'll take it out. So yeah, that's dissolved. Then we're going to add 3 more drops of our acetic acid. Did I put it back up there? Or no, here it is. Got the nice strong vinegar smell due to it being vinegar. And then I'm adding, what is it, potassium chromate? Yes, potassium chromate. Which is up here somewhere. Here it is. So, how much is this? 10 drops. I'm going to add 10 drops of this. And we're going to heat it for a minute and centrifuge, and we'll come back to see if this yellow solution turns into something that we can call barium. Alright, so after heating it and centrifuging it, we ended up with this yellow solution, and if you look closely, there's a bit of a yellow precipitate at the bottom there. So you guys let me know if we have barium or not. So last but not least, I know we've been going for a while, we're going to do our calcium test. So we'll decant our supernatant to there. I'm going to add 10 drops of our ammonium oxalate. Give it a good mix. It doesn't seem to be much of a change, but I'm going to centrifuge it anyway, and we will see what happens. Alright, so we've centrifuged it, and we are left with a yellow solution and no precipitate. So, lastly, for the last time in this video, you guys tell me, did we have calcium or not? And with that, we are done with our group 4s and all of our unknowns. So just to recap quickly, we started with this nice green solution. Look at that. We started with that.
Toxic Avenger.
The Toxic Avenger. And we have all of these tests here. So to go through them quickly, here's what our tin looked like. We have a colorless solution, maybe slightly cloudy with a tan precipitate. Our cadmium is that stuff we made earlier seems to have precipitated, so now we're mostly colorless, a dark solution with what looks like a black precipitate. Our copper gave us this deep blue solution, this royal blue. Our bismuth, we had that light blue solution with a white precipitate at the bottom. Our chromium gave us a colorless solution. Our manganese, we had a colorless solution with a tan precipitate or brown precipitate, whatever color you want to call that. Iron, we had a wine red solution. Nickel, we had a colorless solution with that hot pink precipitate. Cobalt, something seems to be happening in there. But it's a slightly yellow solution with what looks like a white precipitate at the bottom. Barium, we have a yellow precipitate. And calcium, we have a yellow solution. So from those, in the data submission, let us know what we had and didn't have. And with that, you are done with lab for this semester. Good luck with finals. Have a great summer. And for any of you who might be taking Orgo next semester, I wish you the best of luck, and do not hesitate to reach out if you have any questions, because even though I am not here, I am the Orgo master. Bye-bye.
Bye.